Today, I'm shining a spotlight on stencil techniques with a focus on selective ink blending. By combining masking with layering stencils, I'll show you how to highlight certain areas of your design, add extra pops of color, and create more dynamic cards. This simple trick gives you so much more flexibility and really helps your die cuts and stenciled images come to life. Plus, this technique is going to give you more mileage out of your product, which we all love to do. The products that I'm going to be using today is the Apple Frame die set and the Apple Frame layering stencil. So these two products can work individually so you can use them on their own, but they look gorgeous when paired together. The layering stencil actually has 5 stencils to it. The first layer creates the base color of the apples. The second layer is the detail to the apples. Third layer is the base layer of the leaves. The next layer or the fourth layer is detail to the leaves, and then the last layer is adding the branches. I'm going to start with the actual die set, and I'm using a piece of white cardstock cut to 4¼ by 5½, and I'm placing my frame over the top. I'm using the Spellbinders Best Ever Craft tape to hold that in place so it doesn't shift and makes my margins even around the edge. Now, what this die does is create our actual apple frame. On the frame itself, you could watercolor it, you could color with alcohol markers, but I do love a coordinating stencil. So I'm going to place this on top of a sticky mat that's going to hold my frame in place. And then I'm going to take the first layer of the stencil and place it over the top. You can see how easy it is to line up those openings with the die cut piece. Each stencil is labeled in the bottom left-hand corner with a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 so you know what order to do them in. And they also have those squares in the top and bottom corners for alignment, but a lot of times you can visually see how it lines up. You could do all one color of apple on here, but I wanted to have a mix to really expand the color palette on the front of my card panel. So I'm starting with Dandelion ink. I'm going to use something as simple as a piece of Post-it tape, just a small piece, to mask off any areas that are too close together. That way I don't combine the yellow and the green, which you could of course do. It would make a beautiful blend. But if you wanted to keep your apples separate, something as simple as that strip of Post-it tape or a Post-it note would work just as well. For that first layer of the stencil with the apples, I did Green Hills for the light green. I did Dandelion for the light yellow, and then I'm using Pale Tomato for my red. Another helpful tool is a smaller sized blending brush. So these are just a nice kind of medium sized blending brush, and it's helping me control the area on which I am blending. I can remove that first layer of the stencil. I'm going to bring in stencil number 2 and place that over the top. So again, I'm just lining up the open areas of the stencil with the apples that I already placed that base color down with. And the sticky mat is helping hold not only my cardstock in place, but also my stencil. For this, I'm going to come in with darker shades of each of those colors. For the yellow, I'm going to be using Spicy Mustard. Once again, I'm bringing something in as simple as this Post-it tape to help mask off those areas so I don't get any of that ink contamination between my apples. For the green apples, I'm going to add the detail color with Fresh Lawn. Some of these aren't too close together, so you don't necessarily need the masking tape or Post-it tape, but I do find it very helpful just in case. And then the last color for the red apples is going to be Cranberry. Now, while you could just do all one color apple across your frame, which would look amazing, I think it's also fun to expand that color palette and bring in all different colors of apples. Now our next layer is going to add the base layer for the leaves. For this, I am using Moss ink, and I am just going light-handed over those areas. I wanted it to stay fairly light, and I also wanted to make sure that I had a different green than what I already used for my apple. I'll then remove this layer of the stencil. I'm going to bring in my next layer, which is layer number 4. This is going to add some detail to our leaves to really give the leaves a textured look. And this color is going to be Forever Green. Now, please excuse that white spot on the cover of my ink pad. Just kind of a side note for you, don't try and clean your ink pad covers with rubbing alcohol because that is what's going to happen. Again, I'm just going to ink blend this color all over the open areas of the stencil to add all of that detail to the leaves. And this actually looks good as is. So you could leave those branches just white if you wanted to change up your color scheme a little bit. But I am going to bring in the last layer of the stencil and use a cup of joe. It's going to be a nice dark brown. Not only is it adding the branches, but it does add a little bit more detail to our leaves. And now we have this beautiful finished panel with all of the different color of apples by doing selective ink blending. Before I add this to a card front, I like to have stacked die cuts to add dimension. So I die cut out 2 more of those apple frames. I'm going to layer them together with liquid glue. Then I can add some more liquid glue to this and add my colored frame over the top. So this is going to just kind of pop it up from my card front a little bit. That open space right in the center is going to make a perfect spot for our sentiment, but I think it would also make a great shaker card. The sentiment that I picked out comes from the Your Golden stamp set. It has these really nice bold sentiments on there, and I'm going to stamp this on some white cardstock using my Intens-ified Black Ink. Now, because these letters are a little thicker and bolder, I'm going to stamp this a couple times to make sure I'm getting a really crisp impression. There is also a coordinating die set that die cuts out the sentiments in that set, so I'm lining that up over my stamped sentiment. I'll run that through the die cut machine, and then I die cut it out 2 more times from white cardstock once again, layering them up with some liquid glue to just give me some stability behind the sentiment and also add that pop of dimension. I have a side folding card base that I created. I'm going to add some liquid glue behind my frame, and then I can place this over the top of my panel. And this is going to measure 4¼ by 5½, so it fits perfectly on an A2 size panel. I'll line that up so it fits my edges perfectly, and then I will just kind of hold that down for a moment or two to make sure it is really adhered down, and then I can come in and add my sentiment in the center. Now, the S on the word thanks was kind of overlapping that one leaf down there, and it kind of made it uneven, so I picked up the leaf a little bit and made it go over the top of the S. Also included in that apple frame die set are some separate flowers that you can die cut out. And there's a couple different sizes. I did kind of the medium size, die cut them out of white cardstock. And then there's some centerpieces, a small and a larger one, that I die cut out of beeswax cardstock. And I added them to the center of my flowers and just placed them around my frame. And there we have it, a colorful fall-themed card using something as simple as Post-it tape or even a Post-it note to mask off our areas and do selective ink blending. If you like this technique, please hit that like button to help other crafters find this video, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I will have all of the supplies that I used today linked down below in the video description and over on my blog. Thank you for spending time with me today. Here is another video that I think you might enjoy.